Welcome everybody to today's study group session. We're going to be looking at the chapter 5 of the Mastering Shiny book. And this chapter is about the workflow. So we're going to read through, and I'm expecting that we'll collaborate. And for those who have read the chapter, and we'll be able to make sense of what we've read so far. So what we have in this chapter is about right and how to create a workflow or a method of creating our Shiny app that would be efficient and will be able to kind of derive much more benefits, and we won't be stuck and we'll enjoy creating Shiny apps. So it says that the reason why, okay, it doesn't just increase. So it doesn't just increase the proportion of your time spent writing our code, but because you see the results more quickly, it makes the process of writing Shiny apps more enjoyable and helps your skills improve more quickly. So that is why we need the workflow. We need to understand how to create a workflow for creating Shiny apps. So the goal of the chapter is to help you improve three important Shiny workflows. Okay, the first one is the basic development cycle for creating apps, making changes and experimenting with the results. The second one is debugging, the workflow where you figure out what's gone wrong with your code and then brainstorm solutions to fix it. The third is writing reprexes, self-contained chunks of code that illustrate a problem. So reprexes are a powerful debugging technique, and they are essential if you want to get help from someone else outside. So they are code chunks that you can create from your own local system, and somebody else somewhere, anywhere in the world can run the same code and it will behave the same way on their local system. So that's what replexes are. So we'll start with the first one, developing the workflow. So that's the circle, the development circle. So the goal of optimizing your development workflow said is to reduce the time between making a change and seeing the outcome. So they said there are two main workflows to optimize here: creating an app for the first time and speeding up the iterative cycle of tweaking code and trying out the results. So the first one is creating the app. So we can create the app with 6 lines of code, a basic one. So here you'll quickly get sick of typing this code, but there are shortcuts. So the shortcut is what we need actually to master. So the first one is creating the Shiny app snippet. So we can do this by just typing the Shiny app, then press Shift Tab to get the entire snippet like you've seen here onto a simple R script. So let's go into R Studio to see how we can do that. So this is our R Studio, and we're using the same project folder or repo that we've been using so far. So I'm going to create a R script. So if you want to use this snippet, all you just need to do is type Shiny app, then shift enter. I think okay, no, shift tab. Okay. Shiny app and shift tab. So that will give us the snippet. But some things that I do, this is going to be a blank one, but sometimes I do want to see the examples. I can also do this Shiny app, and I'll just press enter, and the same thing you get on the um on your script. So either way, you either use the Shiny and you either use the shift tab, or you just type the Shiny app and press enter and you get the snippet. So let's go back to the book. Mm, So we get the book again. So the second one is for you to create a new brand project. So this is going to help you to create a complete Shiny application. So this will give you an example of a Shiny web app that you can quickly run and play around with. So if we go to our studio again, so let me just click this. You can go to file, or you can go for your new project either way. So I can just click on new project. This is going to close. Okay, I don't want to close this. Let's create a new session. I'll open a new RStudio session. So, okay, in some time. Okay, it's up. So now I can click on the project, new project. So new directory, and then we'll see what we have here. We're going to select the Shiny app. So that's what we're going to click on now. Give it a name, My Shiny app. So let me just be sure that I'm sharing the right thing. Okay, now. So let's go back. Okay, I'll click on Shiny app, and I'm going to give it a name, and I click on create. So this creates a kind of a template with a simple example that you can quickly run. But you have a complete project folder or directory that you can always refer to here. So I'll go back to the book. If you have any comments or questions, you can please ask. So these are the ways that you can reduce the time that you spend writing the code to create your app for the first time, or initially, or you want to have multiple apps that you want to create. So the next one is seeing your changes. So at most, um, you'll create the few apps, okay? So, but the first way to reduce your iteration time is to avoid clicking on the run app. Instead, learn the keyboard shortcut. So, seeing the changes that you've added to your app is as easy as mastering some shortcuts. So, the shortcut for you to run the app is Control Shift Enter for those who are on Windows, and Command Shift Enter for those who are on Mac. So this gives the following development workflow. So you write your code, you launch the app using the shortcuts, then you get an iterate. So iteratively you see, you experiment with the app, then you close the app, back, go back and forth from 1 to 4, 1 to 4, and that's how you test it out. So there's another way that you can achieve this by clicking on this link, and this is like starting a shiny job. So if you read through this documentation, you'll be able to add that to your skills of mastering how to reduce your time, um, running your app and seeing the output of the changes you've made to your shiny application. So, okay. So if you have any addition, or so you can just let me know. So another one is controlling the view. So you can run your application, you can view it in a viewer pane. So but by default, there's going to be a pop-up window. Other than this, you can also view it in a viewer pane or run it externally on the browser, in your usual browser and your default um, web browser. So either way, you can shorten your time. All you have to do is, let's go back to the RStudio. So when you get here, you have the choice of going to this run app, click on the drop down button and select which option you want as a default. So if I select the viewer pane, so and I run this again, I won't go into a browser. Now I can see it within RStudio. I can see the output here. Okay. So another one, okay, if I can stop this here. So another one is for you to view it externally in your web browser. So if I run this to open up my web browser immediately. So now I can see it in the browser, my current browser now. So these are the ways that you can shorten your book moving back and forth to see the changes you've made to your app and back to RStudio. So now we'll go into debugging. So debugging is where we'll try to look for reasons why we're having errors in our app. So it's so we surely have some errors, but you don't just run away. You have to figure out how you fix the problem. So there are three main cases of problems which we are going to discuss that was discussed in this book. So the first scenario is where you get an unexpected error. So this is the easiest case because you get a trace back, which allows you to figure out exactly where the error occurred. So once you figure out this, you can always fix it. And the interactive and debugger is a powerful assistant for this process. So then the second scenario is when you don't get any error, but some value is incorrect. So here you will need to use interactive debugger as well, along with your investigative skills to track down the root cause. So then the last one is all values are correct, but they are not updated when you expect. So this is the most challenging problem, but because it's unique to Shiny, because of the reactivity, so you can't take advantage of your existing R debugging skills here. So that is it's frustrating, but it's something you can still manage. Okay, so it's saying that okay, well, you can turn them into opportunities to practice your debugging skills. So even if it's frustrating. So so do we have questions? If there's any question, just please type it in the chat box or signify if you want to ask a question. So so the next thing we want to look at when we want to debug errors that we see in our app is reading the traceback. This is actually more relevant to ordinary R codes. So, but every error is accompanied by a traceback, so which literally traces back through the sequence of calls that lead to the error. For example, here, if we copy this code and we go back to RStudio, let me shut down this app running. So I have the code copied. I'll open a new R script and paste that here. So the example that we're going to use is when we call this F function and we give it the alphabet A. So I'm going to run each one of this and we have those functions registered in our environment. But now let me run this. So we get an error. So error is stating that x raised to power 2 non-numeric argument to binary operator. That means we're passing the wrong value type to this function. So how do we get to, even if we don't understand the error message, how do we get to trace back? So we can always use this function. Just we go back. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'll go take you back to the book. So we will get the error, but sometimes it's not understanding. You can understand the error, but you can use the traceback function. So I'll go to RStudio. So let me bring this up here. So I'll go back to RStudio. In your console, you can just type trace, and you get the traceback, and you'll see the how the error occurred being displayed in the console. But for you to make sense of this, you have to kind of flip the way the the sequence of the execution is displayed here. And you can also see that they've shown you that okay, this is like it's turned upside down. So you have to flip it around. So we're starting from here, the function that we initiated or ran. Then this function is calling the G function, and the G function is also calling the H function. And what is the H function taking? It's a numeric value. So we'll go back to the book. Let's look at what we have in the book. So we'll flip it around. So flip it upside down. So we'll be able to trace our problem occurred. So, and this is the explanation here. F function is calling the G function, which also calls the H function where the error is starting from. So, but traceback in Shiny is unfortunately not that feasible. So Shiny, because Shiny can't run code while an app is running. So instead, Shiny will automatically print the traceback for you. So for example, if we copy this app, which is also using the same function that we had up there. So I'm going to go to RStudio, we'll copy this, and let's replace what we have in this script. I'll place this here. Control S, sample app. I just give it that name. So if I run this, we'll get the same error in our browser because we selected that as the option. So if you see, we'll have the same error here. So let's just go back to RStudio. Go back to RStudio. Okay, now here, let me change where we'll view the changes we're making. So I would prefer this pane here. So we can see the error here so that we don't go back and forth with the browser. So this is where the error is. And if you look at the console here, we can see some kind of information similar to what we have with tracebacks. So here we'll go back to the book to explain how the sequence of the information that we have. Let me close this and we go back. So here, this is what we can get as the traceback. So we can see some errors there, some information about where the error is coming from. So let me look at what I have in my RStudio. Let's go back there together. So we'll see similar information just like what we see in the, let me stop this, then I'll run it again. I'll clean my console, run that again. So you can see the information. First, it's showing us that the error is coming from our app file. And we can see something similar to what we had in an ordinary R code. So the G, the F function is being highlighted here. And we can see that, okay, we have to go back to line 13. This is somewhere the error is coming from. So let's go to the book and follow up with the explanations there. So there are three basic parts of the call stack. So the first few call starts the app. So after the reference to our app file, we need to flip it around as well. So we would be able to see that the run app is what is showing first. So that is just so it starts the app. So but depending on the way you start your app, then changes might, or the information might be different. So if you are using the source function, this is what we'll get. You get 2 lines before the run app. So if you have clicked on the run app button, then I think we should be okay with this. So the next thing that you will be seeing is some internal Shiny code in charge of calling the reactive expression. So these are the information, and we have the same thing in our RStudio. So if flipped around, let me use the annotate here. So if we flip it around, we will be able to see what is going to create our app. So like we have in the book. So this is it up to the function. So that is the way. So you use this to create the reactive expression. So here, spotting the output $plot is really important. It tells us which of the reactives is causing the error. In this case, it's the plot reactive from the server side. So the next functions are its internal, and you can ignore them. So finally, at the bottom, you'll see the code that you have written. So, and this is where the problem is coming from your app, file. So this is the code that is called inside the render plot function. So you can tell you should pay attention here because of the file part. So if you get an error in your app but don't see a traceback, then make sure that you're running the app using the Control Shift Enter for those who are on Windows and Command Shift Enter for those who are on Mac. So that you save the file running it. So other ways of running the app don't always capture the information necessary to make a traceback. So maybe you would want to stick with this, or by clicking or running the app using this function. So another way other than the traceback is for us to use the interactive debugger. So this is when you add the function browser to your source code, and you can now step through the app. So when we place this within our code, then we can use that to have access to a menu. So yeah, okay. So we'll have access to a menu, and we can also add a breakpoint within our file. So let's go to the RStudio and see what we can do there. So here we're going to stop the app and clean the console. So if I come into my app and I add browser, let me be sure I'm sharing. Okay, please, if you're not seeing the right screen, please just kindly let me know. So we use the browser function, we add it to our app file and then run. So if we run this, we would be able to step through and have this menu under the console added to our RStudio IDE. So with this, we can step through. So, and if you look at the file, you'll see that there's a green arrow that's showing you where you're going to start stepping through your codes line by line. We can step through by clicking on the next button here if we want to go line by line, and this gives us the error. So we'll stop this and let's see how we can do that again by clicking on the continue. We will click on the next, takes us to the next line. Then we can click on continue to just go straight to where the error is. Okay, so these are the ways that you can work around that, and there are other menus there as well. So click can play around. You can stop the debugging mode. You can stop it, exit from the debugging mode, and that's the Q, capital letter Q. So we stop the app completely. So, and you can also start it again, stop. And these are the ways that you can work with the interactive debugger. So do we have any questions or observations, comments? You can drop it in the chat box. Okay. Okay, I'll continue from here. So we've talked about this, and then we've seen the menus, the debugging toolbar from our within the debugging toolbar that shows up when we use that function. So I would like to pause here and ask questions. If you have any questions or observations, then I would pause the recording. Let's interact on based on what you've um, read from the book as well. So if you want to know more about debugging and stuff, so you might want to read this chapter from the advanced R book. So this could help you get a better idea on how to debug in using R and R Studio IDE. So we'll move on. Excuse me. We'll move on to the case study. So this is described as an interesting problem that we could go through and be able to understand um, debugging approaches in your Shiny app. So here he talked about a data set that he got from Kaggle, and let's go to this chapter. The link is there. So this is the link. So you can just select that or copy the link or click on it. Then here you can download. Okay, so you can download the data set. Okay, okay. So that is for this data set. So you can use that to download. I already have it in the in the app in the Shiny app that we use for this study group. So go back. So with the information here, the code here, we're going to copy this code and import the data. So I'll take you back to our studio. So here, I think I should use a blank R script. I'll push this here. So I just created this app. So I'm going to copy and go to the apps repo directory. So I'm placing it there now. Let me still be sure I have my RStudio shared. So now I can, let me show you the folder. The folder is here and I can bring in the data now. Let me just make sure I have the tidyverse package. Okay, it's going to take some time. So let's see. Let's see our script. Hopefully, so I have to install this. Okay, let me install this. I'll pause the recording now to get it. Okay, we can continue now. Let me run this, and I have my tidyverse package loaded there, so I can now import the data. So let's look at subsetting first with what we have here. So now subset, we're selecting some columns here. So So the first time that we read the data in, we have 25 variables. So here we're trying to select only some columns. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we do that, we have 6 variables now. So we can view what we have. Okay. I can click on this, then we have a better view. Okay. So this is what we have in the data set now, instead of the 25 variables. So let me save this. Then we'll go back to the book. So, okay, what's the next one? So we want to check the territories that are actually available in the data sets. That's what we did. That was here. Um, so drop this here. So let's see if we have the same thing. So we have the same output as what is in the book. So from here, we'll go back again. Let's just look through. I think we were familiar with R, then we'll be able to come back and fix some of the errors that is available in this scenario, in this case study. So we'll have unique territory that is available in the data set. Then we can copy this as the app. We just remember we add the other part, that's to run the app as a Shiny application. So okay, I think we're done with the first one. Let's just use this as our app so that we don't have to be typing or omitting. So we'll add the Shiny app to run the app from within, and we also have um, the library for the Shiny here. So let me copy this into the app so that the app can see the data and we wouldn't be looking for ways to what. So let's reduce the error there. So we'll save. So, so this is the first thing that we'll see on a bunch of NAs. So that's a lot. So we'll go back to the book. And here we can, oh, actually I wasn't okay. So sorry there. So let me share what I have again. So what I did was the sample app that I had, I deleted was inside. So I placed in the code to import the data and also what we had in the book. That's this part. So I now left this to be able to run it as a Shiny app. So when we run this, what we'll get is this. So lots of NAs. So why is this happening? That is what Hadley Wickham wants to show us in the case study. So I'll take you back to the book. So I'll walk you through what is there. So in one thing is that in line 8, so it's an 8 line up. Okay, yeah, it's an 8 line up. Yeah. So he was assuming what could go wrong. So, but there was a lot going on wrong there. So he started by obviously looking at um, the values that are coming here. So he stopped the app. So quickly verified that subsetting worked uh, the way he thought it should. So this is an example of what he did. So using this code, you're subsetting the data set to get out only values where the territory is equal to EMEA. So you should have the territory showing only EMEA, not NAs. But right now it's showing NAs with the EMEA. So, oops. So it said, okay, I forgot that it can contain a bunch of missing values as well. So what it did was he had to kind of look at the first 25 rows. It's okay. By default, the head function will give you its first 6 rows. So, but you can also extend that value by giving another value to an argument inside the function. So that will take the number of rows that you want. So do we see a lot of missing values here? A lot. So a lot missing here. So territory is this. So this is NA, this is not NA. So these ones are not NAs. So so these missing values become missing rows when I use it to subset the sales data. But actually, he actually came here to resolve this first part of the issue by using a subset function, which actually returned what he was looking for. So if you take this, you will be able to get what you needed. So that we're still going to put this in the app. So for those who have read it, you should know where we're going now. So if you use the NAs as well, so this fixed most of the problem, but I still had a problem when I selected NA in the territory drop down. There were still no rows showing appearing. So again, I checked on the console. I use this again in the console and no rows except the structure of the table. So then I remembered that, of course, this won't work because missing values are infectious. So, okay. So he tried it again with looking at the first 25 rows, and this is what he has. So there's another trick you can use to resolve this problem. So we switch from equal to in. So this is the in operator. So instead of saying it's actually equal to this, we want to see um give a much more open space to say it's in any. So that's what he did here. So I think that helped. So subset now, it now changes from subset function, the argument that it gave here, like what we had here, it changed it to in instead of equal to. So I updated the app and tried again. It still didn't work when I selected any in the drop down. So this point, I figured I'd done everything I could on the and I needed to perform an experiment to figure out why the code isn't inside of Shiny wasn't working the way I expected. So I guess that the most likely source of problem would be in the selected reactive. So I added a browser statement there. This made it a two-line reactive. So I also needed to wrap it in a curly bracket. So I'm going to copy this and replace what we have in the Shiny app. So I'm going there now. So here we're going to replace this and drop that in there. So this is what he did. Control Z. Let me comment this out and put that so that we'll see the changes that he added. So what it did is that this is a single line reactive or function. So if you want to have multiple code inside this reactive function, you need to use the curly bracket. So this allows us to have two lines of code. Okay. So that is what he did. So, and he also updated the data. The code that is going to bring in the data for us that we're going to use for selected drop down. Yeah, the table now. Okay, sorry, not drop down. You have the unique values here, but what you have in the table output is now going to be fed by subsetting the data, taking in the input from the territory, which is this one, the select input. So I will save and run. So now we want to step through. So here we're selecting NAs and nothing is showing up. Let's look at the other values. Okay. Well, okay, we are in the debug mode. Sorry. Okay. Apologies for that. Then let's go in now. So the subset is the browser function now, the subset, and click in. So the NA is still not getting the data. So let me next again, and but for the other values, it's working. It's working. So we'll still get the value. Okay, let me just continue. So clicking the continue, you can see the data for the other option. So if I change this again, click on next or continue, we'll get all the values there. But when we use the NA, you see continue, nothing shows up. Nothing shows up here. So let's go back to the book. This is interesting. So, but it's tough for newbies, or let's say we that we are just learning or reading the book. But this could kind of straighten us when we're going through creating our own Shiny app and getting into trouble. So now, when the app ran, I was immediately dumped into an interactive web, and it returned an empty store. So I then checked that inputs to subset were as I expected. I first double checked that the sales data set looked okay. I didn't really expect it to be corrupted since nothing in the app touches it. But it's safest to carefully check every assumption that you're making. So sales looked okay. So the problem must be in the territory. In so this the statement that is helping to get the subset data, the data subsetted. So since territory is part of sales, I started by inspecting input territory. Okay. So this gives an NA when you're trying to look at that through the debug mode. So I stared at this for a while because it also looked okay. Then it occurred to me I was expecting it to be NA, but it's actually NA as a string. So now I could recreate the problem outside of Shiny app. So if instead of looking at NA as a actual value, is now being seen as a string. And that is where the problem is. And when you do this, you get nothing as well. So then he figured out a simple fix and applied to the server and rerun the app. So and so now, so if this is NA, so what we are getting from the input, that's the drop down, that's the select input. So if whatever we're getting from there is NA in quotes as a string, then we're going to subset using this function. So let's copy this and see what we'll get as well. So before you ask questions, let's just see if we can figure out something. So I'll save and run. So that was a fix and it actually worked. So far so good, it worked. So if we run using the other values, we'll get the same thing. So this is something we should keep with ourselves, that okay, whatever you get it from the select input is going to be in quotes a string. Or if it's because the actually the variable actually is also a string variable type of a string type or character type. So this will give us that. So NAs are not being returned. So let's go back to the book. So um okay. So now where are we? So NAs, so we select NAs. Else this is this. Um okay. Okay. So I hope we all understand this. If you don't understand, just put the question in the chat box. So what we're doing is that if we see the value that is being selected is any input, then we're not going to use the value that is coming from the input. So we're going to use this statement here. So we're subsetting and looking for any's in the territory. So, but if it is not any in quotes, then we're going to use whatever is selected from the drop down control. So that is for this one. Let me look at the time. We still have some time there. So the problem was fixed, but this felt pretty surprising to me. Shiny had silently converted an NA to a string NA. So I also filed a bug report. Okay, good. So several weeks later, I looked at this example again and started thinking about different territories. We have all these territories. Where was North America? Then it dawned on me the source data probably used the abbreviation, wow, NA for North America. Okay. And R was reading it as a missing value. Wow. So the real fix should happen during the data loading. So this should have been what we should have done. So NA is going to be seen as equal to just empty space, not this one, not NA. So that is that. So that made life much simpler. So this common pattern. So let's copy this and also add to our um, Shiny app. So paste this here. So the old, okay, let me, oh, I'm not sharing my R Studio. Okay, here. So I'm going to comment this out. So this is what we're going to be using now. So irrespective of what is coming in now, we can still know that, okay, we've captured any surprises within the server side. So let's see. Okay. Okay, NA is still an issue. Okay, yeah. We would have to, I think we have to comment out this one. We need to comment this out. So let's comment this out and see what happens. And we'll uncomment the first one. Since we fixed the issue from the data source, then I will stop and run. Okay, awesome. So this way, so NA is not any. So, but we can still do this. But if we look at what we have under the territory column, when we select this, it's still showing kind of like it's any. It's grayed out. So I don't know why. So, but let's keep reading and stop the R. So, so this is one interesting errors that we've been able to fix here. So, do we have any question at this point? So let's just give some time a break here. So